As I sit down to shoot this video, Final Fantasy collector boxes are around $718 to obtain. That price will probably drop as we get to mid-June and the set releases. However, that leads us to the question, is this the right price to pay for a Final Fantasy collector booster box? If you are buying this box specifically to open, it's looking like $700 is going to be the price. It's a little outrageous to me, but if you can find a box of this for between $600 and $700, I think that's a really safe, low risk grab of a $600 to $700 box. It sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, but that's where I think we're at. As you start to get up into that $750 range, you really either need to value the experience. Like, I'm a Final Fantasy diehard. My dad was John Final Fantasy, and I have to open a box of this. And I'm assuming if you're John Final Fantasy, you can afford the risk. But once you get above $800, I would not recommend this for purchase for specifically opening it. Any of these boxes, $600 box, $800 box, most of these boxes are not going to recoup their cost unless you hit one of those top hits, which we're going to talk about in this video. Now, if you're buying this specifically to hold, I think that's a completely different story. I've looked back at the last year plus, more than that, of collector boosters to come out, both regular sets and Universes Beyond. I have found that largely, number one, collector boxes are gaining value. Number two, Universes Beyond tied products of collector boxes specifically gaining value with only very few exceptions. Long term, there's a good chance that these boxes just go to the moon. And I'm not trying to drive FOMO, I'm just telling you the impression I'm getting from looking at multiple sets, boxes, and I want to share that with you. That's my general advice on this product and the price ranges that I would sort of aim at, but what I want to do is give you context so you can make the most informed decision possible when you're spending this much money. Joel R Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards quickly and easily on the internet. TCG Player, the best place to buy them. Dragon Shield, the best way to protect them. And Moxfield, the best place to put your deck lists on the internet. I want to start with talking about opening the box and what you're likely to find inside that's going to drive value to help you potentially recoup the cost. And then we'll look at the historical breakdown of how these collector boxes have been doing to see how we think maybe the Final Fantasy one will do over the next year plus. Opening the packs, though, starts with this bird here. Traveling Chocobo. Well, not this bird here. These birds here. The blue and green neon ink versions of Chocobos. We have got blue, green, yellow, and pink. From what I can tell, these are all equally difficult to find in packs. All of these 4 traveling Chocobos in the neon ink treatment are less than 1% in collector packs. Then you've got the black Chocobo here that's only in Japanese. This is a special tribute to some of the teams that worked on the game. This one is an even less 1% chance to open in the pack. So we've got 5 cards at that less than or at 1% chance, which tend to be the value drivers in products like these, is those 1% or less cards. Those 4 colors and black are driving some of the potential value here. And then we have got our serialized traveling Chocobo, fully gilded out. This one looks pretty sick. Textless. I like the treatment on it. For a serialized card, it looks very desirable. I think it looks nice and collectible. Out of 77 is huge. I want to look at some of the other serialized cards we've had recently, and we'll look at the prices on those and where they've kind of landed. But I'll tell you, out of 77 is a low run on these serialized cards. So that makes it more difficult, but that makes pulling one even more special. These are an even less 1% chance. They don't get specific past that. They're just like, it's less. This is the rarest possible card to pull from the entire set. A 1% card that not many people are talking about is the Surge Foil Alternate Commanders. Cloud X Soldier there on the right is one of 8 of the commanders from the precons that have an alternate version, and the Surge Foil specifically is only found in collector boosters, and that's a less than 1% chance. So there's another card in here that is 1% or less that will definitely drive value. These precons are already blowing up. Look at the raised foils from Bloomberg, which we actually will. Those as alternate commanders are just absolutely cranking in price. The most expensive of those actually is one of the precon commanders, Miss Bloomberg. And so Miss Bloomberg, Miss Bumbleflower. She is kind of Miss Bloomberg though. So you know Cloud for sure, and probably at least 4 of those 8 commanders in that surge foil treatment, which can only be found in these collector boosters at a less than 1% rate. That's going to be another desirable possible pull. Additionally, just like in past sets, the extended art cards are now completely relegated to the collector booster, and they've tried to make them a little more rare. The extended non-foil commander cards, like you see there with Cloud on the right, but there will be more cards from the commander set in this slot. The extended non-foil version of those commander cards is like a 1.6% chance, and the extended foil commanders, the commanders themselves in the extended frame, in foil specifically, are a 0.8% chance. So I think it's important for us to look at the alternate versions of commanders. This is a game about self-expression, and people are going to want to pick the version of the commander they want, which likely will be those extended foil versions or the alternate surge foil version being the kind of top of the line choice. While we're at that just above 1% pull rate to see if we could find some other value that might really hit hard in these packs, there is a secret rendezvous variant. This version has 4 different versions. You've got Secret Rendezvous here that appears in the Commander decks. This is the one that everyone can get. But you've also got these 3 versions that feature different characters from the game. You've got Yuffie, I don't know how to pronounce that one, Aerith, and then Barrett. I'm assuming that Aerith is going to be the most desirable of these, with Barrett being close behind. But when you're looking at any of these variants, you should know that this is a 1.6% chance pull to get this uncommon in a variant that you don't see in the regular commander deck. It's also worth noting that we have a bonus sheet in this set called Final Fantasy Through the Ages. These are sort of Godzilla style reprints here. They are regular existing Magic cards, I should say, with Final Fantasy coding over the top of them. These can be opened anywhere, but the foils of these are only available in collector boosters. It's 50% of one slot in the collector booster can be a foil Through the Ages card, and that breaks down to 68% of the 17 uncommons. 25% of the time it's one of the 32 rares, and then 6% of the time it's one of the mythic rares, like you would see there with Sephiroth the Savior, who is Atraxa Grand Unifier. So you have a pretty low chance to pull a foil of the Atraxa Grand Unifier that's Sephiroth, and I think that's notable because people will want those. It's those 1% cards that really drive a lot of the lottery ticket aspect of this, and that's really what you're doing at $700 is you're picking up a really expensive scratcher and hoping for a fully gilded out chocobo. We need to do a historical comp though, because there's been a lot of these collector boxes at this point, some of Universes Beyond, some of regular MTG, Universes Within. What do we call it? Just MTG. Vanilla MTG. So where better to start with Universes Beyond than Lord of the Rings? Lord of the Rings had a 1% card in it called Realms and Relics. Now, these were in Surge Foil. I wanted to look at a 1% chance that was specific foiling. The Surge Foils of the Lord of the Rings 1% pull card, those Realms and Relics, those were the Godzilla-style reprints of things like Party Tree being Great Henge. Those range anywhere in price from $231 for the most desirable down to $22. So there's quite a range even within these 1% hit slots. Not every single hit is going to be absolute value. Of note, the poster treatments that people always think about when you think about the collector edition of Lord of the Rings, the second release, those were 22% in one slot of those packs, 11% each for non-foil and foil. $483 currently for the One Ring, which is the best pull from that slot, but that goes down to $20 for Dawn of a New Age, which if you pull that poster treatment, you're like, well, sweet, but that was a while ago and super hyped. Let's talk about Foundations, which was more recent, still super hyped, but wasn't as pre-ordery as Final Fantasy is. Final Fantasy's broken all of the records before it's even released. Foundations didn't really catch fire until afterward, but desirable cards, desirable treatments. That is a way to describe Foundations for sure. Foundations had the mana foils, if you remember. Those were a 10% pull in collector boosters, 8.4% for a rare or 1.6% for a mythic. Those range anywhere from $171 for Sire of Seven Deaths to $4 for Curator of Destinies. There's a really wide range on mana foils as a 10% card. Now, the Fracture foils in Foundations were a 1% hit. Llanowar Elves is the most expensive of those, and that's $576 right now. And Kaito Cunning Infiltrator is the lowest of those Fracture foils at $78. So $576 to $78 is your range on hitting a Fracture foil, which again, 1% chance, that could be the Kaito Cunning Infiltrator, and you're like, well, I really enjoyed hitting that card, but let's talk about raised foils from Bloomborough. Those were a 3 to 4% hit, if you can believe it. Those weren't even a 1% hit. However, Bumbleflower is top of that list at $640, all the way down to Nissa Who Shakes the World, which was a reprint in that treatment, new art and raised foil. And that one's only $60. Foundations, however, was a pretty normally priced product, and Final Fantasy's price is pretty insanely pushed, if you ask me. That just in and of itself is going to push the values higher of your 10% or less chance pull rate cards from this box. It's going to make those just kind of naturally higher value because of how much the box costs. You know, card prices and box prices tend to follow each other up and down. If there's a discrepancy, one catches up to the other before too long. And so because it's so expensive, they'll be more expensive. But I wanted to give you that context so that you could understand these percentage chances may be low, and hitting one might not even be the victory that you're looking for to just open up value, which is the entire way we're looking at this, right? You could just find a price that's comfortable with you, open it up, enjoy the Final Fantasy cards, trade what you don't want for what you do, and call it good and never worry about again. But I like to look at it from this angle just to help you make that decision if you need a little push in one way or the other. Talking about Neon Ink Chocobos, so let's look at the Neon Ink Mana Crypts to try and see if we can draw any comparisons. These were all less than 1% chance pulls alongside the Neon Ink Cavern of Souls. The highest value here being around $1,200, lowest being $186. You've even got discrepancy within the Neon Ink less than 1% chance pull for a card as powerful, though banned, as Mana Crypt. A not banned but less than 1% chance pull with the Cavern of Souls that I mentioned. You're between $489 for the most expensive of those, down to that $169 for the green. And then the serialized piece. Yes, there are 77 birds out there that would be the absolute dream to open up. However, you're not going to. The chances are insanely low. So that's not even something I want you to think about. But let's draw some comparisons anyway. Serialized Aether Spark was the headliner in Aether Drift, and the lowest price that you can get one of these for right now is like $1,600 on TCG Player. This one was serialized out of 500, and it was in a set that not a lot of people opened. I think that that's actually driving some of the scarcity, rarity, and price of this one right now. That serialized Edgar Markov from the beginning of the year that was our headliner in Innistrad Remastered and our first headliner card. That one was also out of 500, selling for around $2,700 right now. Very desirable commander, very crazy looking treatment, and it was the first headliner card, so I think that's adding some value as well. Serialized Emrakul from MH3 is very interesting. These were only serialized out of 250, so it's a little rarer to find these out there, but around $2,400 will get you a copy of serialized Emrakul right now on TCG Player. And so it's not necessarily as expensive as you might think. However, the 77 is a very low number that is going to definitely drive the value of these serialized up, on top of the IP tax that is definitely going to drive these up and make them very valued collector pieces. All of that to say, I hope I am making it abundantly clear how expensive this box is and how difficult it will be to recoup your losses from opening it if that is your only goal. You could hit the 1% chance and it be a total miss. You could hit that special foil 1% of 50%, blah, 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 and it just not be the one that puts the value up. Yes, a serialized card is probably going to quadruple your money minimum on the box, but finding that is exceedingly rare, and it's just not going to happen. You're not going to do it. So definitely good luck to the Chocobo chasers. Let me know if you're able to pull one of those neon inks or a serialized. I would love to hear about it. Let's talk about the sealed value of this box, because that's a huge part of this conversation. Right now, like I said, it's around $718 to go and buy a box of this, and they're selling. Multiple boxes have sold today, and they're selling like crazy. You know, it's the best selling set of all time. Now look, the Final Fantasy IP is driving a lot of that hype, but that hype is also being driven by players' price memory. Watching some of these boxes from the last couple of years go up, led firmly by Fallout. This collector booster here over the last year has gained 70% value, $942 to get you a Fallout collector booster display. The most special thing in here were serialized bobbleheads. Nobody plays the bobbleheads. Maybe you're trying to collect them. I don't think it's as collectible as a Chocobo from Final Fantasy personally, but that was the big pull here. Past that, it was like Surge foils. This was like variants of your commanders and some Godzilla style reprints. Almost $1,000 on this box. Hasn't even been out that long. There's obviously the special edition collectors of Lord of the Rings. This is sort of like the main idea of what a collector booster box can do when it just goes to the moon in magical Christmas land. This one collector box is $1,711 and continues to climb. It's gone up 267% over the last year. These types of boxes are why people are so ravenous about the collector product nowadays. This one was heavily driven by serialized soul rings. This one was heavily driven by surge foil versions of the realms and relics like we talked about. The poster treatments were a 22% hit chance in one slot of these packs. That is what people wanted with these, plus the general playability and strength of the set overall. But that's not the only Lord of the Rings box that's gaining value. The green box, the OG, also up 80% over the year. It's up to $900. The serialized One Ring has already been pulled. You can't get a serialized One Ring in these packs. Post Malone has it. It's too late. I don't want to paint too rosy of a picture though. Let's look at the Assassin's Creed box. 5% down over the last year. Now this one had some serialized, the historic figures. The compact nature of these collector packs, there were 10 cards in there. The set was smaller. There's a lot going on with this set that makes it kind of zag while every other set is just zigging like crazy. Assassin's Creed, sort of the exception to the rule here. Smaller packs, fewer hits, I think overall, less interest, and they definitely didn't market this one like at all. But even this one here, over the last like 6 months, up 20%. So you can zoom in, zoom out a little bit on these charts to see some interest, some value gaining in even boxes that people hated. People panned the hell out of this set, still gaining value over the last 6 months. Let's look at Doctor Who, another Universes Beyond, 34% over the last year. That one's also going up. Universes Beyond, okay, got it, Joel. The Universes Beyond collector boosters tend to go up. Woo, got it. Okay, let's look at standard. Parkir Dragonstorm, last set to come out. This one's up 20%. We got to pull back a little bit. It is falling currently. 1 month, down 14%. But topping out over $400 for a standard collector booster, that was super new for everybody. And we don't know if it's really sustainable. Is this going to land more in the 300, 250 range? We'll see. I don't think it gets down to 250 again, but maybe. But talking about announced price to the price it is now, $332. Pretty cool overall. What a standard collector booster of a loved set with cool, excellent treatments and cards can do. Let's take it back a set. We'll look at Aether Drift. All right. It's down 24%, and this is to be expected. People hated this set, right? Even in the 3 months, even in the 1 month, there's no way to look at this chart that is not it falling. We're down into, what, 180 at this point for an Aether Drift collector booster display. Nobody liked this set. Nobody liked the cards. Nobody liked the aesthetic. Wizards of the Coast even themselves said, we didn't get much time to put on that set. Sorry. We did our best. We just tried to we had to do it. The deadline was here. It's like they showed up the day of the class and the project wasn't done and they were like, we got to make something up. Let's go. How about cars? How about cool cars? Graffiti. Aether Drift box, another exception to the rule within the standard collector boxes. This is one that we don't expect to do much, but it isn't. It's doing exactly what we thought it was going to do. Let's look at Innistrad Remastered Collector Booster Display. Do you think this one is up or down before I show you? Came out in January, got serialized in it. It's down. On the year, it's down 20%. Over the month, down slightly. It's in fall right now. I'll say this, though. Let's look at the remastered sets. This is kind of what they've done, is they get opened, people really embrace them, and then we completely forget about them. So if you look back at the other two remastered sets, which we've had 3 of now, we've got Ravnica Remastered. Look at the one-year chart on this. Up 40%. So something interesting happens maybe when these stop being printed. Maybe when demand dries up. Something very interesting happens to these remastered reprint sets that didn't get as much hype because it was just reprints. Not everybody need them. Let's look at Dominaria Remastered. Up 43% over the year. This one, rising in price. You don't even have serialized in this one. And that's probably keeping the price a little bit lower than, say, the Ravnica Remastered one here. Over $400 at this point. It's got Shocklands. Those are serialized potentially. Big serialized contingent throughout. It's not super rare to get one in Ravnica Remastered, though it's all still super rare. Still a 1% chance on any of those pulls, but there were over 60 of them, and they were all out of 500, so there are quite a few of those out in the wild, especially compared to the 77 Chocobos that we're going to get. I just thought it was important to put context on this Innistrad Remastered box, looking at the other 2 remastered sets, one of which doesn't have serialized and is still up, working toward 50% over the year. So then that's Innistrad Remastered. Let's continue stepping backwards through to Foundations. We talked about the pull rates on mana foils, some of the fractured foils in there. This box up 77%, up 10% over the last 3 months. Slight dip over the last month. People are really trying to spend some money on Final Fantasy, but overall, this box has gained a lot of value as well. And this was a standard set, no serialized cards. Let's step it further back to Duskmourn. This box over the last year, up 17%. Let's step it back to Bloomborough. I told you about those raised foils. Sets that are loved, that people really, really want. Up 77% over the last year. Let's take a step back to Modern Horizons 3. What do you think this box is doing? It's up 10% over the last year. In the 3%, it's up 5%. This thing is only rising. It seems right now like Thunder Junction, 8% up over the last year. WotC has figured out collector booster boxes, and the market is responding in kind. These are becoming holdable, sealed products again, whereas 2-3 years ago, I would not have recommended holding sealed at all. Product confidence seems super high in collector boosters. There's a lot of complaining about the price of Final Fantasy, and that's totally warranted, but the sales numbers are telling the story that it's still all going to get soaked up, and some of these collector pieces are going to be insanely rare. Just a reminder, we just launched a brand new Commander tabletop gameplay series that I'm a part of called Garage the Gathering. If you're watching this on the day it releases, we are in day 2 of a 3-day, 3-episode release. We got a bonus episode dropping the 3rd day. We got a new episode today. Go watch it right now. If that's your thing, drop a subscription over there. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd greatly appreciate it. If you think I helped you make a decision, or I just informed you a little bit more about collector boosters and how they've been doing, hit that subscription. And if you already have, hit that like button. If you want to support me further, go check out the Patreon. Lots of cool stuff over there. Let me know if you're buying any Final Fantasy collector booster boxes and what your plan is for them. I'll talk to you in the next one.